What's your name?
Jasmine.
Jasmine. Thank you. Oh,
Paling Tramadol sana.
What's up, baby? I'm here in Bali.
Sorry?
Vlogging. You vlogging?
For YouTube.
Oh, you're for YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. YouTube. What's the name YouTube?
Let's walk.
Let's walk.
Let's walk.
Let's walk in Bali or walk?
Bali and world also.
Oh, okay. Next channel.
Bye bye. photo. Oh, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, good. Thank you. Hadi. Hello.
Các thị nhà.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, kinahubang left.
Your volume berapa dolar sanek? Kamera. From
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
What's your name?
You wanna shopping?
Shopping?
Shopping t-shirt.
Shopping? Oh no no. I have everything.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Ukraine ya. Ukraine.
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 What's your name? What's your name?
No good ya.
Huh?
My name is Sambo.
Sambo. Nice to
Okay.
meet you, Sambo.
Have
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Wartawan di Batambo juga nah. Where you from, brother?
Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah.
I am from Russia. Ukraine. Shevchenko.
Shevchenko, yeah.
What's up, baby? I'm here in Bali 2029. Here with my brother from Russian,
Oh, from Ukraine.
from Ukraine. So my best friend is Zelensky, best partner since 1994. Zelensky is president now. I'm the assistant of Zelensky. And now I will tell you something. What do you call a Mexican man who lost his car? Carlos.
Oh. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Queen, but my wife told me I'm not a queen because I'm still real man.
Queen? You are king.
No, I'm not queen. I'm still real man.
Real man. Oh, okay. Have a good day, real man. Bye bye.
Hello. Looking here, madam. Sunglass.
Thank you. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. You look very nice. Bye bye. Very nice. What's your name?
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
But Jasmine not Balinese name.
Ah.
By passport you're Jasmine or no?
Sorry?
Your real name Jasmine.
No, no.
What your real name?
Putu.
Putu.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yes.
Hello. How are you? Good. Hello. Can I record video? Say.
Where from? Where you come from?
Ukraine.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sige, bakala ko sa akin.